Hello, I'm Pete Davis, and I have the honor to be the chair of this year's Stewardship campaign at St. James by the Sea Episcopal Church. Joining me today is Chris Christopher, the treasurer of St. James. Thank you, Chris.
Well, thanks, Pete. It's great to be here. And I am indeed the treasurer of the church. I think I'm in my 5th or 6th year as treasurer of the church here at St. James.
The theme of this year's stewardship campaign is Let Your Light So Shine. And our purpose in meeting with you today is to kind of shine a light on our annual budget. The stewardship campaign plays a very important role in formulating the budget. Based on the outcome of the campaign, we are able to estimate the funds available to us that we can then apportion for the activities that support the parish. Chris, could you outline for us what the major elements of the budget are?
Sure, Pete. Be happy to do that. On both the income and the expenditure side, if you want to visualize our church, imagine a giant redwood tree surrounded by 3 much narrower columns. On the income side, the giant redwood tree in the middle is what we as congregants and parishioners contribute to the church. We do that by way of our annual stewardship pledge. We have some people who are just regular contributors to the church, and then we have open plate and all the other sources, special day offerings that people make on a regular basis. That's the giant redwood trunk in the middle of our income. Surrounding that, the 3 pillars are the income we get from renting out the hall, the income we are able to glean from the investments, which represent contributions that people have made over decades, almost a century now. And then finally, there's all the other income, which includes gifts, both restricted and unrestricted gifts, along with fee income and charges that we may charge people for having a meal. That's the core of our income. So 4 sources. On the expenditure side, it's really the same thing. There's a giant redwood tree in the middle, which represents what we spend on our people, primarily the rectors, Alex and the whole music team, our staff, and then our youth and children's ministers. That constitutes the 2/3 of what we spend. And then surrounding that are what we spend on the building, what we spend on all other, and what we contribute to the diocese. Those are the 3 pillars and giant trunk on both sides, income and expense.
And how are we faring financially during this pandemic? It's been a big change for a lot of people.
It certainly has, but I love the spirit of your campaign this year, So Let Your Light Shine. We've done remarkably well, and our light is absolutely shining in 2020. As a finance committee, and I do want to give a shout out to Rick Latt and Laura Lee, who are longtime members of the finance committee with me, along with our rector and the wardens who regularly attend. In March, when COVID really came upon us, we were concerned about every one of those income pillars. We were quite uncertain whether COVID would affect people's ability and willingness to continue to support their pledge. We were concerned whether or not there'd be any interruption in the rental stream on the hall. We had no idea what would happen to our investment assets. And we knew the one place where we thought we would see some change is in that all other income, primarily because we knew we wouldn't be using the church and having as many meals and events as we had. To sum it up, Pete, it's been extraordinary. We are maybe slightly ahead of expectations on parishioner giving. Our tenant in the hall continues to thrive in his business, and so we continue to get our rental income. Most of us know the investing world has, after a dip in the spring, has really gone right back to, quote, normal, end quote. And we have been blessed this year with a number of, particularly 2 unrestricted gifts that have allowed us to continue to bring in some money. Along with, we did apply for and successfully get a payroll protection loan, and that has also helped us this year.
It's certainly worth making a point that it's been very great for us that our pledgers and our regular givers have maintained their giving. And I just want to give out a special thank you to all of you out there who are doing that. It has really made a difference for us in the operation of our parish. Chris, what are your concerns as we close out this financial year, if any? Are there any sources of income that we're worried about, or expenses or anything of that nature?
Sure. And before I say that, I think on the expenditure side, I may have skipped over what we're doing on the expenditure side.
Mm-hmm.
The vestry and the rector counseled the finance committee to say, to the extent that it's possible to do business as usual in the middle of a pandemic, but we've done our best to do business as usual, which means we kept our staff, we kept our ministries going, albeit all of us know we're doing ministries in different ways. We use technology to be in touch with each other. But by and large, our staff has stayed intact, and we have made very few changes on the personnel side. The only real change in expenditures would be because we aren't in the church and there aren't as many sectional leaders singing on Sunday. There's been some reduction of expenses there, and obviously food, supplies, those kinds of expenditures that go with being together live have been reduced. But by and large, we've seen a modest reduction in our expenses, which has allowed us to continue to run a very sound financial picture. Looking at the balance of the year, we do expect to get more income in the fourth quarter normally than we do in other quarters, primarily because we're a church and Christmas comes and it's the end of the year, and we do tend to get a slight uptick. Based on what we've seen, I'm not at all concerned that people will fulfill their pledges, so I think we'll see that. Probably the biggest thing will be Christmas is a big day for the church. Historically, we have hundreds and hundreds of people that visit us on Christmas Day, and they have been generous in their support. If we're not able to have the same large Christmas Day gatherings that we've had in the past, potentially we could see a slight reduction in income. Again, things like very difficult to say whether people will make flower donations in the middle of a pandemic. But by and large, we don't see anything too dramatic on the income side. So we think so long as people continue to fulfill their pledges, we think we're going to be in excellent shape closing out 2020.
Great. And lastly, looking ahead to 2021, are there anything in particular that we should be thinking about in that period?
Well, in 2021, the budget that the Finance Committee is working on right now will mirror in many ways the 2020 budget. We will continue to support all of the people that are currently on the staff. And as I say, that's 2/3 of what we spend. So we've already pretty well committed to spend that. We make our 10.5% contribution to the diocese, and we'll do that. It takes a certain amount of money to run the building, and the pandemic hasn't in any meaningful way changed what it costs to pay utilities and do all the things we need to do to keep the building going. And the biggest change that I would see, the rector has asked us to be more active in the outreach area. And I think that's the single biggest opportunity, is if we can find a way to let our light shine a little brighter. I think the intention is to take those extra resources and put them to work in the local community, the broader San Diego community, and around the world.
Each of you should have received a letter in the mail containing a pledge card. If you have not received a letter, or if by chance you have tossed it out with all the political advertisements, please get in contact with the church office and we'll see that you do get another card. Father Mark has asked us to be generous in our donations this year, and I join in that appeal. Please be generous. Thank you very much for your time today.